Hello, welcome to Flipping Junkie Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Johnson. This is just a quick episode to let you know who I am, why I started this podcast, and what to expect with the upcoming episodes. First, let me give you a little background about me and my story getting into this incredible business. I got a degree in computer science and went to work for a company in San Antonio doing software development. And initially, the job was exciting. Doing what I love, programming, doing software. It was an interesting time. The internet had just become really big and a lot of things were happening, so it was exciting. But as I did it longer and longer, I was working for a defense contractor, and at one point I was actually working in a skiff where there were no windows or anything. It was a top secret, like a thing, doing work for the military, for the Air Force. And just day in, day out, being in that room with no natural light and coding and doing the same sort of monotonous tasks. It got pretty old, and during that time, my father had actually started flipping houses. So when he started, he used to work as a contractor for some of the guys that were real estate investing, fixing up houses for them, for when they were doing the fix and flipping. And over time, he got to the point where he decided he wanted to start flipping houses. So he started flipping houses, and while I was a software developer, I got to see him have so much fun running around, buying houses, getting them fixed up, selling them, making great profits, and just enjoying life again. It was really something to see. And when I saw him having that much fun doing it and just having a blast, I decided I wanted to start doing that. And so, I talked to him, and he sort of guided us and told us we needed to get our education and, learn the ropes of the business. So he didn't really walk us step by step into it, just told us to go and learn as much as we could. And as we came across things we didn't know, to call and get advice. And so he was, basically our first mentor. And we had other mentors as well that really helped us a lot in the business and was really great. But my wife and I were flipping houses. So we got into the business, and we were both working full-time jobs, and started, flipping houses part-time. And we did that part-time for about 3 years. And a lot of people think that's maybe a long time to wait before going full-time. But there was a lot of benefit in working the business, part-time for so long. Namely, we were forced to focus on 20% of the tasks that would produce 80% of the results. And that's Paretos principle, which basically states that 20% of invested input is responsible for 80% of the results. So there's 20% of things that you can do that can produce 80% of the results. And so if you figure out what that 20% is, you're really maximizing what you're doing with the time that you have. We were forced to focus on doing things that would produce the most results in a short amount of time because we didn't have a lot of time. So we basically had nights and weekends that we could focus on the business, and we were forced to do things that were going to bring us leads quickly. And one of the things that we did with the family was go out and drive for dollars. So we'd drive neighborhoods, looking for houses that were run down or vacant, and write down the address, find the owners, and then send a letter to them or a postcard to them saying that we buy houses and we'd like to buy theirs if they'd be interested in selling, to give us a call. And so that's what we mainly started with. We started with some bandit signs, which are illegal in some places, so make sure before you do so. Sometimes some places will allow getting permits for them, but check with that before you put those out. But we started with those, with driving for dollars, sending letters and postcards. And that was basically how we found our first deals. And, a funny story is, I'm mostly an introvert, so it was pretty tough for me in the beginning to get in this business and talk to strangers, especially about buying their house, and the first marketing we did, because we buy mostly from sellers, so we market that we buy houses and have homeowners call us to sell their houses. So we don't typically buy off the MLS or from agents. And so when we first did our marketing, I put my cell phone number on the signs and on the postcards and things like that. And I think the first time that phone rang, and it was a number from somebody I didn't know because they weren't in my contacts, I freaked out. I didn't know what to do, didn't know what I was going to say. I threw the phone over to my wife, and she had to answer the call. And, she didn't exactly know what to say either or ask either, but, she asked what the address was and some of those things. And after she got off the phone, we talked about some of the things we needed to know. So we'd call them back and find out more information. But that's how you learn. You learn by doing, taking action. And you better believe that on those next calls, we did a lot better job of getting the right information. And yes, on the second call, I took the phone call, didn't have to throw it over to Melissa. But anyway, and so we've, gone on to actually, flip over 200 houses. So you can see even in the beginning, everybody has the story. Everybody thinks, from what the gurus out there tell you, it's a get rich quick kind of thing. It's a fast thing, but it's not. Everybody goes through learning slowly and picking it up and improving their systems and improving their business over time. But anyway, so that's what we did. And actually, another thing with starting part-time that really helped was, we were forced to find contractors that had crews that could do the entire rehab on the houses. And that's something I think everybody should do. I didn't have much of a construction background. I didn't know how to do much of anything. I've only done small repairs, and even that would take an hour and 10 trips to Home Depot. So I'm definitely not the guy to be fixing up houses. But we were forced to find contractors to handle the jobs, and I recommend everybody do that because your time is best spent doing marketing and making offers on houses to buy more deals. And then when we finally went full-time, I didn't even really know what to do with myself most of the time because I was so used to getting so much done in a little time. So when I had all that extra time, I just didn't know what to do with myself. So there's a big benefit in starting out part-time, and I know a lot of people out there are looking to start flipping houses and are going to be starting part-time. So you can learn a lot from our experiences with that and experiences of guests on the show. We didn't start with a bunch of money either, so we had to just focus on doing marketing on a shoestring budget and get a deal and then reinvest all those profits almost entirely for more marketing because that's what really drives the business is getting leads and getting deals. Now, we've now flipped over 200 houses and are still actively flipping and wholesaling houses. We've done some rentals, and we do sell homes on owner financing sometimes, but our main business is really rehabbing, and that's where the big profits are. And my wife, Melissa, and I really, really love this business. It's helped us to achieve financial freedom for ourselves and our family and allow us to do a lot of things that we wouldn't have been able to do had we just stuck with the jobs. And so we're extremely grateful, and we enjoy sharing what we've learned with other people so that they can do the same for themselves and for their family. And that's the reason why we started the podcast. I say we because she's just as much a part of the business as I am. And, the story of why I'm starting the podcast really does share a lot in common with why I started Flipping Junkie, which is my blog, flippingjunkie.com, back in 2011. We went on a 3-week trip with my family. We took the family, went up the entire West Coast from San Diego all the way up to Seattle, and we're just taking a long vacation. And, at the time I had recently gone up in a small plane with one of my mentors. He's a pilot, and I decided at some point I wanted to get a pilot's license. So on that trip, we went to a museum that had a lot of airplanes and everything. It was an air and space museum. And I told my wife while we were there, I said, when we get back, I'm scheduling, a flight lesson. I'm going to start doing my flight lessons. And so when we got back, I just started taking flying lessons and was having a blast and was completely focused on it. And I spent a little bit too much time learning how to fly that I sort of neglected the flipping business a little bit. And things keep going because of what when you do marketing to buy houses, it kind of accumulates and snowballs. And so even when you stop marketing after you've done enough, you still get some leads over time. But after about 3 months, that kind of trails off. And so we were basically stopping getting leads anymore, and things were slowing down a lot. So I had to focus on how to, to get started again at that point, basically, because all the marketing had pretty much dried up and we weren't getting leads. And so I was looking at starting up again, and I wanted to have something to hold me accountable. And so I started the blog so I could start blogging about what I was doing to start over again. And that became 34 weeks of posts where I showed everything from, the leads that came in, the story of the sellers, because we buy mainly directly from people selling houses, their own houses, instead of buying on the MLS or through an agent. And so I shared all the stories of all the calls that I got and all the leads that I got over those 34 weeks, how I analyzed each deal, and then the story of when I bought them, what the numbers were, and then what we did to fix them up and sell them, and the numbers for the whole deal. So that was really cool. A lot of people got a lot out of that because it was actually walking through, the life of a real estate investor, life of a house flipper. And it was more than just, what they show on the TV shows, because we were showing like what we were doing to get the leads, how we were analyzing those leads all the way through the whole process. So if you haven't seen that, you should definitely check that out at flippingjunkie.com. And, fast forward a couple years, and now in addition to flipping houses, I've been developing software for real estate investors. We currently have leadpropeller.com. That's leadpropeller.com, which allows you to have your own house buying website to generate leads online. And if you go to flippingjunkie.com and you check out the 34 weeks of posts on the blog that I was just talking about, you're going to quickly realize most of my leads and deals come from my website. And so getting a website is something you should definitely look into if you're looking to get started. But we also have a CRM system to help house flippers keep track of their leads and basically manage their entire house flipping business. And that can be found at reimobile.com. And obviously, flipping houses and running a software company can take a lot of time. And that's forced me to up my game. I've got to really manage my time very well. And podcasting is going to, it allows me to gain insight from other successful house flippers that I interview and help me to relearn lessons I've forgotten and learn new lessons, as I improve my business and share the process with you through this podcast. So this leads us to what to expect from this podcast. First and foremost, what will make this podcast different from other ones, what I want to do is interview more regular Joe investors, people that aren't well known out there, not on the circuit, so to speak. And I'm also going to, interview highly experienced flippers that are out there as well. But I want to try to get more of the regular Joe investors that have started out and made a success of the business, but haven't spoken or been on a lot of websites and things like that, so you can get some new information. And we're not just going to give you pie-in-the-sky ideas about house flipping and constant pitches for products. I want the podcast to be the go-to place, for anybody looking to get started flipping houses, as well as for experienced investors that want to just learn more on how to improve and grow their business. So this is the place to get fresh, actionable advice on flipping houses, the Flipping Junkie podcast. If you want dry content without any stories about actual experiences, definitely try the other podcast. But, I love sharing crazy stories about experiences we've had in our house flipping business, the adventures, and my guests have a lot of great stories to share as well. So I'll do my best to have them delve into detail so that you get answers to questions you have as we talk about each topic. I know, some other podcasts and things that I've listened to where, the podcast host really didn't ask really good questions to dive down into, what somebody listening would need to know to be able to do what they did. So I'm going to really focus on that, really get down to the details of how, so if they talk about a deal they did, ask them how they found the lead, what marketing did they do, how did they analyze that deal. So those kinds of things is what you can expect. And I plan on actually even implementing some of the strategies recommended on the show in my own business, and then give follow-up reports on later episodes so that I can say what I did, what I maybe tweaked, and let you know the results of that. So you can find out, sort of what to expect if you decide to try some of these strategies that you hear on the show. And, there's going to be a brand new episode every single week. So be sure to subscribe to receive each episode as it's released. We're going to have new stuff every single week. And we'll try to keep it shorter. So, anywhere from 30, 45 minutes. Some of them may go up to about an hour, but that's going to be max. We'll try to keep it to the point, try not to ramble on too much. Really looking forward to getting this show going and having a lot of fun doing it. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Flipping Junkie podcast. And I hope that you get a lot out of it, and subscribe and listen to all the new episodes that come up to hear about all the crazy stories, adventures, and learn how to flip houses so you can achieve financial freedom for yourself and your family. Thank you.